there guys, I'm going to show you what I'm bringing for my sleeping system at work camp and how these layers of clothing and gear interact with each other to kind of have a good night's sleep in the woods. I'm going to start with what I'm wearing. I'm literally just wearing my underlayer. I'm wearing hosen, I've got my shoes on, and I have a wool hood and a linen shirt. If I'm sleeping, this is going to cover my face from bugs or potentially light sources or just the wind or just keeping my head warm. Whatever I need it for. If it gets hot in the night, I can pull it down like that. If I look at actually what I've got here on my sleeping system, this is just a mat that my tent is going to have as the ground sheet. I'm not setting up a tent tonight, but I'm just going to show you, use that as my base layer. And I've just got, I'm in my backyard, so it's just grass underneath that. If you were to be in the woods scenario, you want to clear your ground underneath your mat, potentially pad it with things like tall grasses, leaves, debris, things like that to pad yourself a little bit, depending on what you're wearing as what you're sleeping with as your mat. For my mat, all I've got is a basic sheepskin, and it's only one of them. I could do two, but as you can see, it's long enough to cover my torso and all the way from my shoulders and my head down to my butt and my legs. My legs aren't going to be too uncomfortable being on the bare mat there. So I'm gonna put my mat down, my sheepskin down, and then just got a big old wool blanket. Okay. I'm just laying half the sheepskin underneath me. I mean, half of the wool blanket underneath me, and I'll have the other half to cover up with. And another thing I like to bring is a cotton sheet or a linen sheet or something to help regulate, kind of have different layers, and also to keep the itchy wool away from my face. If it's a hot night and I want to put some over my face, I can use the sheet. It's just really a lot more comfortable with the sheet. It doesn't add a ton of warmth, but you might be able to seal out the drafts a little bit. So we'll put that down there. Then I've just got a woolen jacket in here, and it's just a basic cloth bag that will act as my pillow, but it's full of clothing, so you have your extra clothing as a pillow. You can put whatever you want in here. You could bring a pillow to work camp if you have the space for it. I recommend having an idea of what you're going to fill what bag you're going to fill stuff with to be your pillow, because pillows are underrated. I think on the hardcore camping thing people do, they forget the pillow a lot, and that's kind of the main problem with a lot of their sleep setups. And of course, I've got my sword and my helmet, and I'm going to sleep with those next to me so that I can get to them as soon as the alarm is raised. So once the alarm is raised, I roll right out of bed, grab the sword and helmet, and I go find what the threat is. Alright? Alright, now I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to roll up in this, depending on how cold you are, how many layers you want in between you and the ground. There's a couple of different ways. First off is just basic, is just you're going to sleep on the one half of it and fold the other half over. So I crawl into bed, and I curl up in my sheet. Put the pillow behind me. My center of mass is on the sheepskin. All my joints are covered. I just cover it like that. If I want to put the hood up, I can. Grab my sword, put on my helmet, and then I'm ready for action. The other way is going to be a little different. It's going to require setting up the wool blanket sort of in a diamond shape to where we're going to sleep. So I'll show you how that works. I'm going to pick this corner and put it near my head. And put the pillow there. I throw the sheet down, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to layer this myself up like a burrito. First, I take my feet and throw this over my feet to keep my feet warm. Next, I take the shorter corner, wrap it all over, and tuck it into my legs. Next, I take this longer corner, tuck it all the way over, and tuck it into my side. Then here I've got as many layers as possible over me at any given time. And this lets me stay warm even if it's cold out. It's a little bit less easy to spring to action. I just spring here, I throw off this. I'm a little more tangled up. Then once I'm ready, I grab my sword, grab my helmet, and I'm ready for action. Okay, so these are just a couple ways of sleeping with a sheepskin and a wool blanket. And that's the system I use. You can use all sorts of different systems, from a small rug to, you know, a bigger sheepskin if you want more comfort. You can even use like a hidden air mattress wrapped in a canvas bag, or you can bring a large canvas bag like 6 feet by 2 feet maybe, almost like a large pillowcase, and stuff it with grass or leaves that you find in the wild and make a nice mattress. And that's a very historical way of doing it. Another historical thing is a reed mattress, which is basically just a rug woven from like jute, maybe rope or something like that. Reeds. It's kind of similar to tatami, but a little bit less finely woven like that. But there's a couple different options, and there's been some good discussion in the War Camp chat about that. I just want to key you all in on that and give you some ideas. And really, you don't need too much in terms of sleeping systems for this event. And lastly, I'm going to show you how I rolled this up, which is very simple, very easy, and it doesn't take up too much space in your bedroll or in your pack system, whatever you're carrying. First, I lay this out and fold it in half. Throw the sheet inside of it. Give it another fold on these edges. Make it a little narrower to about the width of the sheepskin. Then I just begin rolling. And then this whole thing ties together pretty easily. It's relatively bulky because of the sheepskin, but in terms of weight, it's not too bad. You can get different weights of wool blanket. I recommend getting a big one. The wool blanket won't do much insulating you from the ground because it doesn't, depending on how much loft it has and how thick the fibers are woven. You'll be better off with a very airy type of fur material on the ground, and then something like wool that's warm and weather resistant and can keep the wind and the potential humidity or rain out above you, and just having a little bit underneath you for cushion, but it's not going to do as much for insulation because the fibers are going to be compressed underneath you. Thankfully, wool is relatively hardy and thick, so even when you do compress it, it offers better insulation than something like a sleeping bag when it's compressed. All right, that's enough sleeping advice for today.